Hi there, folks. This is Sam Price, and welcome to the Probate Notes podcast. We have with us today a really special treat. We have Judge Mary Thornton House. She is a retired judicial officer from Los Angeles Superior Court, and she sat for 8 years on a probate bench. And she's going to give us some certain perspectives when it comes to probate matters. Judge House, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You're always a pleasure. Can you tell me a bit about where you're from, your background?
I was actually born in Memphis, Tennessee, and my dad was a dairy executive, and we transferred to Dallas, Texas in 4th grade and then out here in junior high. And I went to UCLA undergraduate, go Bruins, and I also went to University of San Diego School of Law and graduated from there in 1978 and passed the bar that year. Couldn't believe it, but I did.
Phenomenal.
And I was a Los Angeles city attorney for almost 18 years. I would say 12 of those years I was in the civil divisions of some type or another. My last 8 years I was general counsel to the police and fire departments. That's actually where I met my husband. He's a firefighter, retired arson investigator. So when we got married 34 years ago, people said it took a man brave enough to run into burning buildings to marry me.
Phenomenal. That's incredible.
And so I've been retired since 2018. I am doing neutrals. I'm a private neutral mediator for alternative resolution centers, and we service people statewide. I have a gavel and I will travel if necessary. And I also do some arbitration, some discovery referees. I'm finding, and this is what may be interesting to all of you out there, in an uncontested situation like a Hegstead, where everybody is agreeing that the house should belong in the trust, or everybody agrees that the trust or their will should be modified because of tax consequences that were unanticipated. People are actually hiring me for just an hour hearing under a 638 reference, a CCP 638 reference. So when people are setting cases in June of 2027, I'm a speedy person, or any of us that know probate could do that. Because you go to court, you get a ex parte request, a stipulated request for the reference, the judge signs off on it, and then I issue an order and it goes from there. So that's one thing we're doing.
Okay, so under this Myers-Briggs personality profile, the judges have overwhelmingly the same type of personality. Do you have any sense of why that is? I mean, it sounds like that is what you want out of a judge, it seems.
Yeah, I think being introverted, maybe it's draining, but on the other hand, it's someone who's thoughtful, who doesn't, and then thinking, you want judges to think, and judging, you want them to make decisions. Though I think the ISTJ is very common, and they have the trait. I mean, I could go into huge detail about the traits of what these types of judges are, but for the most part, they want to remain objective. They want order in the order. They want civility. They want to rely on precedent. To make an introverted judge do something really outside of a precedent, you've got to be a really good advocate. You've got to explain to them that, the facts are different, even though the precedent says otherwise, and be an advocate. So yeah, I think the whole concept of stare decisis may very well be in the DNA of the 80 or 90% of most judges, so.
And it seems...
Court of Appeal tell me I was wrong. I'm not straying from precedent. That's kind of...
But it seems like if you want the type of work as a judge, you might already have that personality type because that fits how you work. And that might be why they're attracted to being a bench officer.
Oh, I think so. I know it was really interesting. A lot of people said to me, "Do you really want to be a judge?" And me, you don't strike me. I mean, I know you'll be good in court and you know your evidence and all this kind of stuff, but it's really a lonely job. They're very isolating. And I said, "Oh, it can't be that bad." It was worse. It was worse. Yeah, it is very isolating.
Can we talk about the next type of personality? The next would be a thinking
That
personality.
trait. Oh, yeah.
That trait. Can we talk a little bit about what does that mean for a judge?
Well, thinking judges want to be objective, all right? And they want to analyze and they want to weigh the evidence. So a lot of times, what'll happen has happened to me, and even in my mediations, you'd be surprised the number of lawyers that don't put in the burden of proof in their briefs. Okay, because if it's preponderance of the evidence, if it's clear and convincing, and there's even some in the criminal world, substantial to do something likelihood. I mean, there's all kinds of little different wrinkles. And the judge has got to kind of figure out what standard am I applying here. Make it part of your brief, make it part of your argument. Be logical. A lot of times, laying out the consequences of a decision can show how ridiculous that decision is and should not be decided in the way it was. Thinking judges are firm, they're tough-minded, they don't like emotional situations. The one trait here that I realize is not something I would do, but a thinking judge will hurt other people's feelings without even realizing it.
An
They're in
intention.
the objective world, and they go, "Counsel, are you kidding me?" That's a ridiculous argument, because they don't know that they're hurting the person's feelings. They're just saying, "No, this is, my take on it." So if you can find a rule or a standard or anything to back up your position, I will give your listeners there are the maxims of civil jurisprudence in the civil code. I encourage you to read those because they have just basic logical things like no one can benefit from their own wrong. So if you can't find a case and you need to cite something, that is a law, all right? One of the most famous ones is superfluity does not vitiate. And that means you can do everything for the wrong reasons, but if the outcome was correct, you disregard the wrong reasons, okay? And that's a way of arguing, but they've got a lot of little gems in there. It's in the 3200 section of the Civil Code. It's called Maxims of Civil Jurisprudence.
You mentioned this earlier, but I want to do a little deeper dive into it. And you mentioned decisional fatigue.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, well, the overarching duty of a judge is very simple. We need to decide something and make sure it's recorded. So judges make decisions all day long. Okay. And I used to come home at night after a trial or a hearing, and my husband would say, "What do you want for dinner?" I go, "I don't care." And he'd say, "What do you mean you don't care?" I said, "You pick."
Yes.
And he goes, "You make decisions all day long and you can't tell me what we're going to eat for dinner?" And I said, "That's because I make them all day long."
Yes.
And it's really, really true. I mean, I learned this really early on. Don't ask for attorney's fees at 10 to noon. Okay? Because you've been on the bench and you really, really have to be careful that you're not, going into the decisional fatigue. And decisional fatigue is real. It is. I think for me, I'm enjoying my mediation practice because I'm not making decisions anymore. I'm helping craft a problem solution. And I like that. I like that.